Oh, hey, I didn't know that Bobby was going to be here. I got this. I got this message that had a rough night.
Well, Bobby is here. It has been a rough night.
Oh, Bobby is here without his face. I get it.
No face, all bandaged and bruised. You know what? You only get your birthday once a year.
What? No, come on. We got to hear a little something.
Oh my God!
Wait till tomorrow. It's fine.
Okay. Well, I promise to tell you everything, but it's embarrassing.
Hopefully, we didn't involve any of this, right?
No. Well. Maybe the order part. Maybe the order.
Okay. Well, as long as there's order.
As long as there's order. And it was. There was no bad things. There was no fights. There was nothing like that.
Okay.
Because if you saw me, though, I want to say you should see the other guy. But the other guy, I don't know. This fictitious guy, it's pretty bad, man. I'm beaten up a little bit.
That's okay. That's you know what? You were looking a little too pretty anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There you go. That's the summation of it all.
Brody,
how you doing, man?
What's going on, Bobby? I missed it. You're not doing a video today?
No, I had a little bit of an incident last night. Well, not an incident. It was what it was. It was a birthday. It was a birthday thing that got a little out of hand. It's the truth. I want to be honest. This is true DFS. A little banged up. And I'm going to ride through it. We're going to find the right plays today. It's the most important thing is the voice.
Are you clearing concussion protocol?
I honestly don't think I could clear concussion protocol. I'm 99% sure I have a pretty serious concussion, but that is beside the point. We're gonna get into it today, guys. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're here. I mean, because so I wanted to talk through this. Not that I couldn't talk through this with Rody. Obviously, that's what I was preparing for. Yeah, so why don't you just lead the way and tell us what you want to go over or whatever.
All right, so let's get into it. I mean, we got a lot of chalk in a lot of strange situations that if they played this game 3 weeks ago, they would never have had chalk in the Denver side of the Denver-Houston game, for example. But I actually think it's reasonable. I guess that's the main thing. I am going to be completely overloaded on this Miami-Washington game. That's sort of going to be my make or break. And I understand that sounds pretty popular to everyone else. No one's going to play Jalen Waddle. No one's going to play Jahan Dotson. You know, as Sheets very clearly point out, which was very obvious. Why is no one playing Curtis Samuel early in the week? Well, now they're playing a little bit of Curtis Samuel. But this is the game that I'm focusing on. So with that said, that's sort of my overlook for the slate is literally that Miami-Washington game, I think, as being the most interesting game on the slate. Sheets, do you have an overlook or anything you want to point out?
Well, I'll kind of release it as we get to that part of it, because I do have kind of I don't want to spoil it too much what my exposures are. We'll kind of have a little entertainment. Listen, when you have a play like Zach Moss at 4,500, whatever he is, it serves two purposes, right? Number one, forget the ownership for just a second. It's a good play in and of itself, and it also opens up salary, right? So if you think, for example, that Tyreek Hill is a good play, and we'll get to that in a minute, then the combination of the two of those, that's makes a lot of sense. If you just compared Zach Moss, and we'll get to running backs in a minute, but you compare Zach Moss to other running backs, I mean, he's not going to be the highest scoring running back. I mean, he could, but it's probably not going to be the highest scoring running back.
Yes.
I could make the case that he's not even in the top 10 scoring running backs.
Yep.
So, if you play him, the idea of playing him is, it's an okay play. I mean, it's a good play, point per dollar, but unless you can't put, the high scoring guys in the lineup with him, then you're just, whatever, and conceptually, you think it'd be a good idea to gamble by finding a running back not to make the whole slate about 2x2, right? But to play another running back that you really think can blow Zach Moss's projection away, and pair that with like a little lower price wide receiver that maybe could outscore Tyreek Hill, like for example,
Yep.
So that's listen, as you know, I mean, did a lot of videos recently, and I'm doing more of them. Really focused on like the Saber Sim piece, the lineup building thing. I did a whole lineup construction video just on MMA, which I thought was really cool and really well received by the people who were into that kind of stuff. And so, with that said, I mean, it's still important to go back to fundamentals and discuss how DFS works and how plays work and how ownership works and things like that. So,
no, I think it's really sharp to point out. I will just say my plan as of right now, I've built 5 shell lineups. I will have 0 Zach Moss is my current plan. I do not see this as a situation you're going to win it. Like in my opinion, your best case is that he ends up squeaking in the end zone and you get like your 16 or 15 from a guy. That's my personal take. Look, I'm totally good with everybody. If you're mass multi-entering, I'm not playing a ton of lineups, but I do think Zach Moss is the definition. This is bad chalk, in my opinion. I like Zach Moss as a running back. I do not like taking running backs against Tennessee. I think it's ridiculous to take his chalk. I was going to fade Jonathan Taylor when he was going to be, and I did the same last week. I do not like these type of matchups. So I'm going to personally ignore it and see where the chips, let the chips fall where they may. Maybe I end up with 1 or 2 lineups. I don't want to like totally lie, but at the same time, right now, my plan is 0 Zach Moss. Rody, what's your approach to this type of situation? Because I think it's important. We talk about like a guy who's going to be owned by more than half the field in one of the worst matchups in football, even in look, he's getting the bulk of the carries. He's all the things we like. He can squeak in the end zone, all these things. But I am completely off of this. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I usually tend to take these guys and go lower owned on them as well. I mean, I'll have a few shares of them. I'm not going to completely fade the guy, but I'm trying to find ways right now to get out of the builds in my higher dollar buy-ins for him, for sure, because of that ownership will be even higher, and then maybe have him in 1 or 2 single entry type, higher dollar ones, and then kind of get off them in the other ones. So like, I'm definitely under the 50% on him for sure. I'm trying to use some of these cheap receivers we'll talk about and other plays that we get, and that we can make it cheaper.
Yeah,
I have as we get to quarterback or whatever. For those of you that are that I don't think that many people here for the first time. If you are, Bobby and I really don't talk about the slate too much, like during the course of the week. We do like a Tuesday thing, and then we just forget about it, and then we kind of show up and give our takes and stuff like that. And I don't speak to Rody at all about this like during the week. And I'll say this, that that one of us is going to win.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it in a minute.
Well, but by the way, I kind of agree with the thinking of like, this is not, Sheets, you know me really well. Like I'm not a big, you have to play or you have to lock in this guy kind of a guy. This does feel like that kind of a situation a little bit where I would be playing 75% or I'd be playing 0% if I was.
Well, I have a very scary take, which we'll get to, I guess, a little bit later. That'll get me different. But we'll talk. You want to just go to quarterback and just see what's up?
Let's get into it. Why don't you start it off with quarterback Sheets?
Yeah. So my my top owned quarterback. Just here's a little bit of context here. I'm playing 150 in the Millie Maker, and I'm playing one lineup in the Spy and one in the Wildcat, and that's on DraftKings. I'm also going to play one lineup in the I think in the early slate, just the Wildcat, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But my highest owned quarterback in the Millie Maker is actually Brock Purdy. And then I'm pretty well spread out. I'm under actually on Tua, but I definitely have over 10% of Sam Howell. Then I have Jared Goff in that game, Russell Wilson and Derek Carr, both in that New Orleans Detroit game. But my overall top owned quarterback is Brock Purdy, and part of that is going to be what happens when we talk about running back and wide receiver. But that's where I am currently.
Yeah, and by the way, I totally get that play. I think it's like Brock Purdy makes like a ton of sense. I don't know if I'm going maybe a little too contrarian. Personally, I don't have any. At the same time, I think that's sort of, I know Purdy is going to have some ownership, But I think that game is probably the most under-owned, and it's like you have two incredible run defenses against two great pass defense, like two pretty wobbly pass defenses with the two best teams in football probably playing today. So it's kind of interesting. Rody, what do you have today for your quarterbacks?
Yeah, I was running a lot of Sims today, and I was seeing a lot of Sam Howell, Brock Purdy, those 6K guys. I'm really liking Jared Goff at his ownership today. I think he scored like 26 points last week, and he didn't really have a great game. It was a lot of garbage time and stuff like that. But I think in the dome this week, Saints defense hasn't been what it is. I really like the Lions this week. I think that's a good stack, and I like some of the cheaper options and the running back receiver we'll talk about there in that game. I do want to mention that I did put my playbook out there, and I did mention that you'll be surprised, but the Chargers actually are showing as a fast game pace this week that nobody's on. So I'm probably going to get my Chargers at low on this week, which I do like. I know the weather's bad. It's raining there. I've been watching the weather. The projections come down a little bit for Herbert and stuff, I think, because of the rain. But it was projected to be one of the fastest paced games for plays this week. I know it's kind of weird. New England's defense isn't what it used to be. People keep thinking that it is. And we know where the volume's going there. So I kind of like that stack. So yeah, those are really my main stacks. I'll probably have a little bit of Tua, just a couple lineups, and I'll do the $3 just to kind of hedge, have some of them. And then my bigger buy-ins will probably be the Jared Goff, and that's what I'm going to do with that. I don't really like that many stacks today. I'm kind of going with just a few of these stacks, and then kind of working around that. And even Derek Carr, I'm going to throw him in a little bit too. He's a cheaper quarterback, and then a little bit of Russell Wilson.
It's very interesting that you say that, by the way, before we get into it, because I don't have a lot of like pure stacks myself. And I usually do. Like I usually have like a whole bunch of these 2x2s, 3x2s, whatever. Like my highest owned like stack type, even in the Millie Maker, is just QB +1 with like no run back. You know what I mean? Which is very rare for me.
Which has been the winner every week, though, Sheets. In all fairness,
which makes me feel good, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm just, so when we'll get to stacks later, but that's just piggyback off of that comment.
Absolutely, and I want to. So just to go into my quarterbacks. First of all, I love what Rody mentioned. It's literally my entire. Outside of the Washington-Miami game, that is exactly how I'm playing this slate. I made 2 notes before I came on air here, and I did some digging yesterday. I do think you have to play some Chargers stacks if you're max enter. I really like that idea. I think it's really sharp, and it's the first time all year we'll have the Chargers on a main slate at low ownership. Probably a good idea to get some. It's literally just. Keenan Allen will be on, but like it's totally perception about New England who may be tanking. And this whole thing is very, very bizarre, but I think you even have run backs from New England. So I like that idea. My main quarterbacks are going to be, I will have 25% at least of Tua and Howell each. So that's half my lineups. Okay. They're going to be completely committed to that game. If it busts, whatever. I want to overplay that game. I want to play every piece of it. Gardner Minshew is my 3rd highest owned quarterback. Jared Goff my 4th, and Russell Wilson my 5th. That's the way I'm playing this slate. That's what I'm doing. I'm not saying that it's the right thing. I'm not saying this is the best thing, but that is the way I'm going to treat this slate. And I'm playing less lineups because of a little bit of a rough birthday night. So that's what I'm doing. I love it, Rody. I thought that was really, really sharp. And we're going to get into running backs. And why don't you start us off, Rody, and then we'll go to Sheets.
Before we get into that, I want to just throw in something, about the Jared Goff play. One of the reasons why I'm going to be throwing off some football stuff here for a second. I think
I love it.
I'm not going to get the names right, but whatever. One of the reasons that he's projecting well, it makes sense, is Marshawn Lattimore is not playing. And also, I believe their top rusher is not playing also.
They have four injuries on the defensive end, which is, and honestly, two of the 4, you could argue, are their best defensive players overall.
So that's why they're, that's one of the reasons, among others, why Detroit's looking like that.
I like that. Sheets. Why don't you start us off with running back, Rody, and then we'll go to Sheets.
Yeah, all right. Running back is this is a good one. We got the Moss chalk. We got CMC. He's actually getting about 20% ish. He might be too expensive at the 9K. You got Alvin Kamara 8-2. I don't think he's getting any ownership. He's in the dome game against the Detroit. I really like him in my golf stacks. This week you got Austin Eckler 8-3, kind of another higher. Oh, he's getting to work at 8-3, 4% ownership, 5% ownership. Stevenson in that same game, we kind of like him. He's a little bit lower owned. He's in a lot of optimal builds. I'm seeing in some stems stuff that I'm running. So like him at 6Ks, a good. Chargers don't stop the run at all. It would slow the game down a little bit, but they usually break big runs. The biggest question is you got Devon Aiken and Mostert. Achan's back this week. Mostert's looked good. Those two running backs could take some from Miami offense. Is a worry. Same thing with Gibbs and Montgomery. I'm talking about the golf stack. Those guys are both playing, and the usage is really high for both those guys in the red zone and end zone. Touchdowns for Montgomery. I like him. You got White at 6-3 is projecting really good against the weak Carolina defense, but he's also really chalky. I kind of like pivoting to some of these lower owned guys at the same price range as well off of him. That's kind of the main guys I'm on this week. Maybe a little Najee Harris or Warren in that game against the Cardinals. Don't mind that a little bit, but I mean those are my main running backs really this week. So
I like it. Sheets, what do I do?
Yeah, I think that the best non-Zach Moss running back play is Breece Hall, and I've been saying it all week. The Jalen Warrens and the Najee Harrises and all this stuff. I Breece Hall, who's the total stud running back for the Jets. They have Tim Boyle, who's quarterback, right? And even last week against Miami, all that he was doing was either handing the ball off to Breece Hall or throwing it to Breece Hall out of the backfield. And it's raining here. It's gross. You know what I mean? And I think he's the best non-Zach Moss play. I think he's the best of that range. I think that I was waiting for this thing to steam all week, and people are playing him. But my second favorite of the non-Zach Moss plays is expensive, but I don't see a reason why Kyren Williams is not a good play again. It's same reason he was a good play last week.
Preach.
So those are my two favorite of the non-Zach Moss plays. What I'm doing with Zach Moss, just so you know, and listen, I kind of like the way this kind of worked out. Is that here are the different ways that I've heard you're supposed to play Zach Moss this week. You can either be with the field, which is about 55% or so, in the Millie Maker, like in the Wildcat will be 80, you know what I mean, like or whatever. But it's so you can either go with the field, or you could go way under, or I've heard recommended you can just totally lock him in. That's apparently what all the quote unquote sharp players are doing. So I'm going to do totally something different. I'm playing 85%. So I'll get over the field, but I'm not going to get locked in. That's where I'm at. And I'm going to be different elsewhere. We'll get to that in a minute. I guess that's where I am. So Zach Moss 85%. Breece Hall is my highest owned of the others. But I have pretty well settled on, and the others between Rachaad White, Kyren Williams, Javonte Williams, all those are over 10%, and everybody else is under for me.
Again, you take big stances. I like the idea of taking big stances. I am personally that's my big stance. Is I'm just going to fade that 4,600 chalk. But for me, I'm okay with eating a little bit of the Rachaad White chalk. Javonte Williams, Derrick Henry, Mostert, I guess A-Chain too, if you want to say split up your Mostert and A-Chain, ownership. And I love the Kyren Williams thing sheets. Like it's the best defense in football they're playing, but at the same time, doesn't that force you to like put the ball in your best, whatever, the guy who gets the most usage on your team, can he have 10 catches today? Even in, let's just say Kyren Williams doesn't get in the end zone. He might have 10 catches for like 60 yards, and he also might have like 75 rushing yards. You know what I mean? That's a bad side. I really think that there's like a really high upside for that play. So I love the Kyren Williams call. I'm totally obsessed with it. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. The Jalen Warren, Najee Harris thing, I just think again, I love Jalen. If I had to pick one who's going to most likely outscore the other, it would be Jalen Warren. But considering the ownership discount you're getting with Najee Harris, I think it's probably worth it just to go that way. He looked really good last week. Unfortunately, had the tackle behind the line for a negative 2-yard loss, which took him off of the 100-yard bonus to go with his touchdown last week. So I am on board with taking some shots on these guys, even though I understand they're splitting, and I know Sheets is, I think it's overall the correct strategy. You try to take the guy who's got the 70% workload or the full workload. Personally, though, I am going to be playing some of the Pittsburgh running game because I just cannot see how one of them doesn't get there against Arizona.
Well, let me ask you a couple of other running backs. I don't have much of any of them, but you could certainly make cases for them. So Bijan Robinson against the Jets. I mean, I personally am not playing anything against the Jets defense, but I've heard him mentioned as a good play. And then in that Detroit game, I mean, Alvin Kamara seems pretty expensive, but $8,200 for him in a what could be a decent game environment. Do you guys have any interest in those two guys?
20% Alvin Kamara. I forgot to mention it. It's because I have so many Detroit stacks, as Rody was sort of alluding to with that which feels kind of fishy, right? Why am I playing a running back who literally we have no idea what's happening inside the red zone, who's 8,200, and why am I not just paying the extra 800 to play, McCaffrey? And my answer is simple: is that I like Kamara as a run back, and I think that Christian McCaffrey is in a very tough matchup. But today is probably the right day to play him because he's too cheap, but it's a really tough matchup, and he's going to need to get you a lot. I think Kamara has that same sort of upside, and I just like the idea of getting Kamara at 1/4 the ownership. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Kamara this week. He's in my Detroit run back, so.
Yeah, not an ideal matchup. But by the way, not an ideal matchup. I mean, he and McCaffrey are both in real, this is not a good run game matchup. The one thing, Kamara is another guy I could see with 10 fucking catches by the end of the day and be like, oh, we should have had that guy. So I'm going to make sure I do have some of that. All right. So
I'll let you guys start a receiver. I'll go last with receivers.
All right. I'll start off with receiver, I guess. I'm going to be making some changes to my receiver, but as of right now, Terry McLaurin is my highest owned receiver. Second highest owned is Tyreek Hill. Nothing special there. A.T. Perry, my third highest owned receiver. Cortland Sutton, my fourth. Josh Downs, my fifth. But then you get into Johan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson, all going to be owned. DeAndre Hopkins. All of these guys I want to play 20+% of. And then I would like to try to go out of my way to fade the Houston receivers just for ownership, just for circumstance, because I'm not sure. I mean, I watch these guys play every week because they're the most interesting team in football to me, but I'm not sure that it's not right just to not be overweight everything Houston. But today I'm taking, with less lineups, a much, much severe underweight stance on Houston. How about you, Rody, and then we'll go to Shoots?
Yeah, just kind of with my stacks, I'm on, the Tyreek Hill at 96. He's very pricey. He's been killing it. But I'm on St. Brown in the Detroit game. He gets 10 targets plus a game. He catches almost everything. Yards after catches right behind Hill and Chase this year. So he's killing it. And he just gets a lot of work. And a bad game is 9 catches and 198 yards or something. Right. So the guy's good. Keenan Allen's good. Obviously, he gets all the work too. He's 9K, so they're paying up for these guys is a lot of work this week. But some guys we can use the help. A.T. Perry in that same game, the Saints. I like him as a cheap play. He's the second receiver they got, a touchdown target every game lately. I like him. We got who's the other cheap guy? Oh, Elijah Moore in that Cleveland game and run back with Kyrene Williams. I like that little mini stack in that game. Waddle at 7.6 is more affordable than the Tyreek Hill. We're still waiting on his game. So just in my main guys in my stacks, pretty much. I don't have a lot of the Houston plays, like you said. Nico Collins probably a little bit better. Tank Dell's more expensive. I like Josh Downs at 5.1, Curtis Samuel at 4.1, getting a lot of him in that Washington stack.
Yep.
Dotson's 4.6 too is a cheap play to kind of work them in. Noah Brown's back this week with 4.5 in Houston. All right. Just kind of some cheaper plays you're going to need this week to fit in them in. Yeah, it's kind of what I'm going with some of these guys in my same stacks. So,
I love Rody. Whatever it is, for whatever reason, we seem to have very similar builds today because we've got a lot of the same stuff going on. Which, hey, look, as Sheets says, somebody's got to win, right? Maybe it's Sheets because he's got none of the same things we got. What do you got?
Well, let me. So I need a couple of minutes on this one. So I want to tell you how I kind of got to my exposures here, and I will tell you that I didn't force anything in. Okay. So first of all, just the way I was thinking about the slate, and then how I got to it. So, obviously, as I mentioned, I could allude to earlier. There were a couple of ways you could do this. So Zach Moss is obviously the cheap, running back that you could put as a free square. And one of the reasons you could do that is because you get access to Tyreek Hill, who's just a freaking beast. I mean, 40 points a game, whatever. Every once in a while, like you said, he'll look like he's spraining his ankle, whatever it is. And you have this incredible game environment against Washington. So, and then I was like watching some content across the industry, and a lot of people I really, really trust say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't play too much Zach Moss. I'll just lock in Tyreek Hill, and then they'll just kind of get a little bit different, with running back and stuff like that. And all that made sense. And then as I was thinking about it, like even yesterday, I was saying, one thing you could do if you really wanted to get different is you put like a rule that I want max one of either like Tyreek Hill or Zach Moss. This way you don't get the Zach Moss Tyreek Hill pairing. You know what I mean? Because if you do that, then I think a lot of people are going to do that, and then you're going to have to get exact or whatever. So okay. So this morning I reran all the projections and I double checked them all and I looked in whatever, and then I just blasted them into SaberSim, and then I threw up, the Sims also, and I put min uniques. I really wanted to get a lot of different combinations, so I put min unique 3, min unique 4 even, and then I blasted it and I ran a set of 150, and I looked at my exposures and I'm just totally chilled with it. I have 0 Tyreek Hill today, and yeah, I have 0 Tyreek Hill. I have 0 Jalen Waddle. I have 0 Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, so that's going to be my hold my nose situation. Everybody's going to be saying, listen, if Zach Moss beats me, Zach Moss beats me. As you mentioned, kind of Bobby. Listen, like if that Washington game's bust, it's just bust. Whatever. For me, that Washington game bust, I'm like flexing. You know what I mean? So,
right.
That's just what I'm doing. I don't recommend doing what I'm doing just because I say I'm doing it, but it was based on a process. I wasn't being just a pain in the ass and saying I wanted to fade that. It literally was just doing it the way I did it and putting it into the Sims and putting it into my projections. And that's just what I got. And I think the reason why I would get that, if you want to get deep into the algorithms, is that, like you said, like if you're going to get like 85%, you have to make a choice. Then you make the choice for Zach Moss, and then you fade probably the best wide receiver play. And he is the best wide receiver play. I mean, he scores 40 points a game, and he's in a perfect game environment, and whatever it is. So that's my thing. All right. As far as who I'm actually playing, I'm right there with you guys. My top wide receiver is Amon St. Brown. He's my top overall wide receiver.
A lot of them.
And it's not much. I mean, it's like 27%. You know what I mean? So what it is, all those Tyreek Hill shares, which I probably should be playing, is just basically spread out among other guys. Like I'm getting like over 20% of concussion Olave. You know what I mean? Like let him come do whatever.
Yeah.
18% Cortland Sutton, 17% Michael Pittman, the normal guys. 15% Keenan Allen with his 74 targets, whatever. 15% Deontay Johnson, 15%. DeAndre Hopkins, like all the guys that are just a little bit worse than, well, maybe a lot worse than Tyreek Hill. But I'll just kind of play the combination game that something like that kind of happens. AJ Brown, those types of guys. So that's my approach to wide receiver, and it was based on a very normal process. And I was kind of happy, whatever. Listen, just as long as I save some money to play the late slate, the afternoon slate, once Tyreek Hill gets his 4th touchdown, I'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I totally like it, Sheets. The only thing I would throw out that I think that I'm going to have Jalen Waddle because of the low ownership, where I don't have Tyreek Hill a lot. But
I would prefer Waddle to Hill. I mean,
Yeah, it just the Hill ownership is going to be outlandish. I think in large buy-ins, you're going to see 30+% of a wide receiver who's 5'7". He is the best wide receiver in football. I don't think we really have a conversation. Tyreek Hill. Yeah, but like I still think that is a completely fadeable situation, especially when you factor in the running game for Miami, and that's what I would suggest doing if you're going to play pieces of that game, like. Play the running game because people are confused about the A-Chain Mostert thing, and we don't really know if either of them are going to end up with any ownership. That's the truth. And both those guys have the ceiling through the roof. The ceiling is the roof because you're playing Washington. It's like the nuts matchup. So I do want to have pieces of Miami. Personally, if I'm not playing Waddle or Hill, I'm probably going to go with the running backs for Miami. That's where I'm at. And I like K9's question here, which we didn't talk about this guy at quarterback. Are we crazy? He didn't say, are we crazy? He said, anyone playing Hurts today. Are we crazy for not just playing Jalen Hurts?
No, I mean, he's a good play. I mean,
but is he going to, with what is he going to be? The 9th highest owned quarterback? 7th, 8th? I don't know. Somewhere in that range.
No, I mean,
oh, he's got a little more ownership than that.
Yeah, he's got like 9-10%. I mean, he's got to get a lot of push touchdowns.
I mean, I have 6%. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I just keep coming back to that game, and like you talk about two teams with like I don't want to say must-win games, but that's the game. You have two incredibly good run defenses on both sides of the football. Just feels like maybe it's the right thing to do to play the passing game in that game and just overload it. Purdy will be the popular one. I didn't think Hurts was going to be as popular, but he's starting to pick up some steam here. And I just want to say, like, from watching Philly play every week, this is a big they call them the BDE team, the Big Dick Energy team. They just don't have, like, you feel like they're going to be there all the time. And I also just want to, like, revisit one more thing that before we get to tight end. I think that this Herbert thing is a really sharp play that Rody mentioned. I think this Chargers thing, I think that's something that could easily be the winner, and it wouldn't surprise us any bit. And you're going to get, for the first time, the Chargers game is not like the game to play. I think it's really, really sharp to play that Chargers game. Anyway, we can move on to tight end. Sheet, start us off, and then we'll go to Rody.
Yeah, so there's a bit of chalk at tight end today in
Brevin Jordan.
What's that?
Brevin Jordan?
Yeah, there's a bit of chalk today at tight end in Brevin Jordan. Yeah, I mean, I'll be, I guess, with the field. I don't know what the field's going to be, but I'm going to have like 15% of that. I guess that's be below the field, actually. So I'm going to have about 15% of Brevin Jordan. But my two best favorite plays are one that you just kind of reminded me to play, and that would be David Njoku.
Yeah,
I got him. And then the other just stud tight end, Trey McBride. Those are the two. Now, again, if you're going to play the Washington stacks and all that stuff, yeah, obviously Logan Thomas is a strong play. But those are my top tight ends: Trey McBride, Brevin Jordan, and David Njoku.
I like that all very much. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, I like all the tight ends that Sheets mentioned. Maybe a few different ones would be, I got the Higbee call right last week. If you were on that one, it worked out okay.
Finally happened. We got our Higbee game. Finally.
Yeah.
We've been begging for it all year. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, Brevin Jordan's is that the price is so good. So, he's going to be like 27%. I bet he's probably more than that ends up, You got Juwan Johnson at 3-4 in the Detroit game that we like. You also got Sam Laporta that I like at really low ownership this week. He's just got to get in the end zone again, and we're going to be fine with that. He gets a lot of targets, every game. Nobody's playing George Kittle. He does grade out really well. I guess he's about 7% owned here, but he grades out decent, but he's a little expensive, 6.2. But I mean, he's an option in that game if you want to get a little exposure to that 49ers Eagles game a little bit. Gerald Everett, Eifert, however you want to say it, he's 3,500, but getting no ownership. He's been the guy lately. He looks decent. They're running out of receivers and stuff there. So if you want to throw a guy in this, get some red zone looks, he's viable too. So that's kind of what I'm doing. this week.
I like that. It's going to be very off the board because people are so confused by the Parham everything. So I kind of like that idea.
Well, I'm kind of concerned. What do you mean? However you pronounce? How else would you pronounce Everett? I'm like trying to look at this.
Well, I say Eifert Everett. I don't know how I screw it up all the time.
How can you say that when it's Eifert? I mean, there's a different player named Eifert, but
Yeah, I always screw it up. I don't know. I personally just.
I mean, I've screwed up a lot easier ones than that. But Gerald Everett,
Everett.
I don't know, man. That looks like a pretty easy one. I don't know, man.
So yeah, so the key is plug in Eifert into your lineups.
I mean, a Conku. I mean, listen. You tell me you can't get a Conku right. A Conku, so you can't even do it. You can't get a Conku right. Yeah. I'll live with that. But to say that you can't look at Everett and get the, you know what, you're right, Bobby. Like Tyler Eifert is like certainly a lock now.
It's a lock now, right? Like we just made it.
You gotta play Tyler Eifert. Is he even in the league? He's not in the league.
Probably not.
You know what? Even if he's not in the league, I think
you got to play him anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. maybe
that's probably why
we're gonna lock him in. Even if doesn't have a salary.
Yeah, but
play him with Harry Giles and Bones Highland in our whole lineup. That's it.
Harry Giles.
Yeah, we got some laughs in the chat. I like it, guys. Yeah, 42 guys. Don't forget to hit that like button.
Fade Kyrie Irving. No, I'm just kidding. That was a big one the other night.
We want to talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to. Even the winner who won with Kyrie Irving in his lineup, I don't think he even wants to talk about it. Yeah. It was pretty gross. So tight end for me is pretty straightforward. Sheets, you nailed it with in my opinion, I think Njoku is the best tight end option on the slate. I don't think it's really that close. I think in terms of stacks, it's going to be Logan Thomas, George Kittle for me in those stacks. And look, of course, I'm going to go Brevin Jordan with the nut matchup, and he's cheap. Like the only so I think that what I'm going to do though with Jordan is make sure I'm playing another tight end so I can get super cheap in those two spots. Maybe play Njoku and him. Brevin Jordan, like this is the nut matchup. Now he doesn't have to be the number one tight end for them. That's the one thing that's worrisome for a 40% owned tight end. Sure. But it literally is the absolute nut matchup, like literally the nuts. So if you're going to skip Brevin Jordan and you're going to skip what's the running back shock, Zach Moss, I would be much more inclined to skipping Zach Moss than I would be Brevin Jordan personally. Because I think this is the perfect matchup. Even if Zach Moss gets, 15 today, I just think I'm going to do other things. And I think that Brevin Jordan is the right answer as far as the chalky plays. It still scares me because it could be any other type. Like it could be Eric Saubert. You know what I mean? You could see Brevin Jordan with like 2 targets the whole game because that's how good the quarterback is. He doesn't need his tight end as an escape valve, but with, anyway, I just don't think we should treat Brevin Jordan like Noah Fant. I'm sorry, like Dalton Schultz. But I do think that we should we kind of have to play. I don't know what's he projected to be, 30% owned. Yeah, I think my inclination is to play higher than that and to play him with Njoku, especially because I think Njoku is the best play. And I think Brevin Jordan just saves you all the money and allows you to play the Waddles, the Tyreeks if you want to, the Michael Pittmans, all the Chris Olave, as Sheets mentioned, Keenan Allen, ASB, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like that idea just to get to those guys. All right, let's talk about defense. And I know what Sheets is going to say, so I'm going to start off with Rody here. Rody, what are you doing defensively? Because I'm the overwhelming love that's going to happen for the Falcons defense is probably a little, look, it is, I don't know if you could have a worse quarterback playing in the NFL than Tim Boyle, but I think I get it, but at the same time, I just think doing anything else makes a lot of sense. I'm sort of going to be on the Sheets train on this one. I'm probably going to be way underweight the Falcons and way overweight everyone around the Falcons. How about you, Rody?
Yeah, the Falcons, they're coming in looking like 24, 25%. That's very high. And they're 3,400, so they're not like the cheap, So a cheap I like is probably going to be the Panthers this week at 2,500.
Love the Panthers.
They're still about 9%. owned, but not 25. So I like them a lot. I mean, if you really want, the only cheap ones, the Commanders at 2,300, they're going against the Dolphins. So not sure you want to play that, but anything can happen, but they're not that cheap. So they're not even the mid 2K. So I don't like them as much. The Browns defense has been good this season at 3,100. They're a little bit lower owned if you want to take a shot there. But they're playing the Rams. We like Kyren Williams a little bit. We think that's going to be a more competitive game. And the other one I had another 3K-ish one, but really the Panthers is kind of what I'm targeting a heavy. Maybe
yeah. Just to piggyback real quickly on one thing you mentioned about the Rams. So Cleveland is the best defense in history of football to ever be 3,100, in my opinion.
I have some for sure too. Yeah,
they are the best defense you'll ever see at this price. And I was saying right now, as a Rams fan, Matt Stafford is one play away, just one hard tackle from being out the rest of the year. The thing is, McVay is, in my opinion, the best offensive coach in football, and he'll find ways to do something maybe. But I love the idea of taking just Cleveland and just being way overweight that versus the Falcons and all that. Sheets, where are you at defenses? More than 2%.
I think the Falcons is a terrible play.
I agree with you 100%.
I'm going to get some of them just because of the way the whatever, but I'm limiting them to 15%. I'd probably be less, but it's 3,400 against a team that's not going to take any chances. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not. I have a hell of a lot more interest in the Dolphins if you want to know the truth.
Love it.
Yeah, so they're expensive, a little tough to play, but they're going to get plenty of opportunities to score. So I like them. I like the Bucks. They're like 10%. If 10% of them, Steelers always are good for, but so far all these are like expensive defenses for guys. As opposed to guys we're used to playing. The Panthers are going to be, I think, the I want to say hipster play, but the kind of the sharp big buy-in play, to save money. But I don't know if you need to save money today. I guess that's why all these other defenses are looking good. You know what I mean? Because with Moss or whatever it is, and Brevin Jordan, and all these kind of like good low risk contest cheapos, you could play the higher price defenses. That's why people are going to play the Falcons, I guess. But Panthers over 10%. I have Colts almost 10% for whatever that's worth. But I don't know if I'm only getting that because it correlates with Moss. You know what I mean? I don't know. But for me, I think the Dolphins are certainly good for a 2 today, and they also could be good for a 32. With just Sam Howell just throws the ball more than everybody else.
And he gets more sacks than everybody else.
He drops back more than everybody else. And that's so there's plenty of opportunity for variance. And that's
you get an automatic 5 for 5 sacks that Sam Howell's getting today.
Yeah. So
defense.
And and obviously you should have. I mean, I shouldn't say obviously, but you should have no problem playing Howell with Dolphins defense today. That could totally get there, like in fine style. The other thing is just for kicks, if you want a good cheapo defense, now you don't need to do this, but Tua Tagovailoa gives me a freaking heart attack every time he throws the ball. Okay, he gave up just a complete dream-like pick six to the Jets last week. The patterns over the middle, gets tipped up in the air. You know what I mean? So I don't need any more anti-Dolphins leverage myself. But if you get to the Commanders, they certainly are live for a couple of scores as well.
I like that, Sheets. And one thing I want to point out, though, just with your lineup construction, just based on what you're saying about Miami, I think that it's probably sharp to play the Miami defense because you're playing none of the Miami offense.
Well, that's an amazing game script. They get two pick sixes, and then Rasheed Mostert runs the game out.
Right, and like maybe that's the way. Maybe that's a contrarian, like optimal way that this could go. You know what I mean? We could see that happening for sure. I think that's really sharp.
And keep in mind that if Tyreek gets like a touchdown and 100 yards, it's not the end of the world. It's like
Tyreek would have to have multiple touchdowns and 150 yards for you to actually be scared, right?
And that probably will happen in the first half. But you know what? Then there's the afternoon slate. So
then what happens after the first quarter?
Right. That's right.
All right. No, I like this, guys. So in the interest of like keeping it going, I did want to throw out one other play that I didn't mention. I think that Elijah Moore is the best value wide receiver on the slate, and I forgot to mention this. Look, we know one thing about Joe Flacco, okay? He's going to throw the ball downfield.
He has no shame. That's true.
All you have to do is get one, and you're 3,500, and I would bet you that Elijah Moore's air yards by the end of the day are right there with anybody else in football other than Tyreek. Like literally, I think that he'll be like in the top 5, and he's 3,500. That's my personal take. Maybe it's a little bit of a weird angle. Maybe I'm just basing too much on Flacco's past. I don't think so. I think it's the right thing to do. And the Rams defense has given up big plays all year long, especially wide receivers. So I just want to
you want to before we get into some other like weird stuff, you want to talk about FanDuel or?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. What do you guys have different on FanDuel? I didn't play on FanDuel today, but I did notice a few differences. What did you see, Sheets?
Yeah, let me just go back over there. Just so you guys know, I do have some Miami on FanDuel, but not too much. I have like 19% Tyreek Hill on FanDuel, and I still have 95% Zach Moss over there. But I have like even more Breece Hall over there. I have like 27% Breece Hall on FanDuel. And I'll tell you also I have a lot of on FanDuel. I have 25% Cooper Kupp on FanDuel.
I like that.
And then
I can't move, but I still like it.
I guess the rest is sort of the same, except for the fact that I do have a 20% owned defense over there. And so I have 20% of the Texans defense on FanDuel. That would be my big difference, I guess, would be the Breece Hall ownership. The Cooper Kupp, Houston defense, and I'm not fully out on Miami, but my top quarterback over there is still Sam Howell. Ooh, and to your point, guys, my second highest owned FanDuel quarterback is Jalen Hurts.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, and I'm gonna come in with a little bit of so I have my stacks and everything. The stacks that I'm making sure to get more of are San Francisco, Philly. I understand it's raining in Philly. I don't think it matters for Philly. I think it actually is better for Hurts specifically. And look, I'm obsessed with Devontae Smith, so I'm just gonna always be a little bit overweight that. I think the sharpest thing that I'm really happy Rody addressed it because he's the Charger guy. But like this is the spot where like you're gonna get. This is the only time all year you're gonna get the Chargers unowned, other than Keenan Allen. And I think it's a really, really sharp play to play the Chargers. I really do. But I'm gonna say one of Elijah Moore or Tutu Atwell is on the Millionaire Maker. How about that?
I got a hot take then.
All right,
that's a hot take.
And then we'll go to Rody and he can close us out.
So one of them is kind of like not even a hot take, but it's more of a reiteration of something I said before. But I'll throw it another way. I would say that somebody from the Jets is in the winning Million Maker lineup, and that could be either Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson or the Jets defense.
Ooh.
I like this. I like this, Sheets. I think it's a really, really, really makes a lot of sense.
I think Atlanta stinks. Okay. I think they're coming to New York where it's like gross out here. It's so nasty. Like they're coming from freaking Atlanta against.
Did you already just bet on the Jets?
I did already. And they're starting Breece and they're starting Tim Boyle. It's a freaking horrible, horrible thing. And the fact is that the Jets have played nothing but tough teams. and sometimes they've been kind of not competitive, but other times they have been. And I just listen. They listen. They don't have the horses to compete with like the Miami Stacks and the Washington Stacks and all this stuff. But I think that one thing I did see last week was that Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall got literally all of the work.
Yeah.
And I think that one of them, if not both, are going to do very, very well.
But also, what about a script where finally the Jets aren't down by 10 and they can actually run the ball? You know? They haven't been able to run the ball because they're down by multi-scores every game.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brody.
No, yeah, you're right. They're definitely down every game, so they're not. Breece Hall's getting faded out a little bit. Yeah, that's a good hot take. It's only a 33 total. That's definitely a crazy one with that weather and stuff too. So I like Sheets calling that. I don't really have a hot take except my Chargers lower own. I think they're going to be better than what people think today. I think they're going to be in some winning lineups. So.
Hot take right there, Rody. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a hot take. The weather's a little bit worse too now. Looking into that a little bit.
Where?
It said it's supposed to be raining in the Chargers game.
Oh, okay.
So they're at New England. They're outside. So it's not, at the Chargers Stadium or anything. So that's a little worrisome, but I still think it's going to be a good play. I think if we're good, guys, good luck, everyone. We're like 3 likes away from 20 that I said. So if you guys can hit the 2 likes away from 20, hit the like button. Check us out if you're not.
Wait, before you take us out,
Pete's got a comment. We'll wait.
Just a couple more announcements. Okay, so the showdown slate later. I'll put sheets up for the showdown slate, and same thing. Like if we have we have a sweat like in anything late, I have no problem hopping on and just and doing a live sweat and whatever it is, and I'm like they could kind of use that as also a maybe a live thing about the showdown slate. But there will be showdown slate content put up. There's no NBA today, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just watching to see what happens with the Dolphins, because if the Dolphins go off, then we have good opportunities between Rody and Bobby to be live in the afternoon. And if they don't go off, then we could have opportunities for Sheets to be live. So we'll see what happens.
I like that. I like that. Somebody's got to win, as Sheets says. We're on different pages.
Somebody has got to win.
Usually, Sheets and I are a little bit more on the same page. Right today, it's me and Rody. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this. Rody, why don't you take us out of here?
All right, guys. As always, good luck today. Check us in the Discord. We're always in there. If you guys got any questions, drop them in the Discord. And good luck. As always, let's get it.
Let's get it.